My name is John Bullock. I run a very unique leadership program, helping you to strategically and creatively think clearly, leading to optimal performance even during crisis and stressful situations, with great impact improving the quality of your life. Now, I said a lot there, and allow me to explain to you what that actually means. Allow me to unpack it for you. Performing optimally even during stressful and crisis situations means that you are performing at the peak of your performance consistently over a long duration. That's mindset, and that's what we're here to talk about today. I guarantee by the end of this video you will 1. Understand mindset, 2. you will understand how to activate a good mindset, and 3. you will know how to constantly be aware of where you are and how to reset your mindset. You cannot have a good mindset without physical activity. For those of you that say you can and say, well, I don't do nothing, I still have a great performance, are not performing at the best, are not performing at their peak. The reality of the situations, have a good mindset, is that you've got to activate the blood cells within your brain. All leading universities now will tell you exactly the same, that you have to activate your emotion, you have to activate your motion. You have to get moving. It is as simple as that. You've got to be willing to stretch yourself outside of your comfort zone. Not to do it means that you will never perform at your best. And those that say, yeah, I perform now at my best, in fact I really do really well, what they don't realise is that they've got more to give. The reality of the situation is this: as soon as you begin to exercise, to activate yourself, you're creating new brain cells at the front of your brain. And as you do that, your ability to learn better and retain that information increases tenfold. And that's why, if you want a good mindset, you have to be prepared to activate your emotion. And that means taking action. As soon as you take that action, as I said before, you're creating new brain cells. And as you create those fresh new brain cells, you're in the position to learn that faster and to retain that information better than what you otherwise would have done. And that's why it's important that you do it. In fact, I give many talks about this to get people to exercise, because I know through that exercise, I know what they will achieve. I often go through the following when I do a seminar. And when I speak to people, I'll say to them, I want you to self-assess, which is part of a good mindset. So for instance, I may say to you, if you feel really good today, give me a 10. If you only feel so-so, give me a 5. If you're not too great, maybe 1 or maybe a 2. And ignore everybody else, other people with you, just ignore it. You self-assess. This is so critically important. It's not about somebody else's performance, it's about your performance, the way you are going to optimally perform over a longer duration. So you've got to be prepared to be honest with yourself and say, well, how do I feel today? What can I deliver today? It's essential. If you feel really good and you've given me 10, you may do 5 or 7 of these. If you only give me a 5, you only need to do 3 or 5. If you only give me 1 or 2, then you're only going to do 1 or 2. So what we're going to do, we're going to do an exercise. Now, if you've got a bad back or a bad knee, okay, just take it really easy. Now, we're going to do a thing called a Hindu squat. And you've probably, hopefully, you're sitting on a chair as you're watching this. So you need to stand up. And you place your arms out in front of you like so. When you're going to pull them back nice and tight towards your hips this way, and as you pull back, you're going to sit the back of your bum onto the seat and step up. Now, as I said, if you've got a bad knee or a bad back, you only just need to bend slightly. The idea is to activate ourselves, not to hurt ourselves. Okay, and as you come back and you're boom Sit, touch and up, and boom, sit and up. Okay, in your own time, because you've self-assessed now, let's do the Hindu squat. Now, I'm not going to do them because it's you. You do how many you feel you are capable of doing at this moment in time. Well done. Do you realise by exercising you're actually turning on your attention systems, your memory systems, and your ability to learn better? That's got to be great news, because you know as soon as you do that, your ability to learn and to take on new information has actually increased tenfold. In fact, you probably and likely already knew this. Many people I know that sometimes have a crisis situation. Maybe there's an upset in the family, maybe there's a problem at work, but you will relate to this. You've probably gone out for some fresh air, a walk, and as you've commenced that walk, you've been worried about the more you've walked, the more you've exercised, you get fresh air, and you think it's about being out in the open. Well, certainly that does help, taking in fresh air, because breathing correctly does have a great deal to do with this. But what's important about it, you will notice that the longer you walk, you begin to get fresh ideas, new creative ideas, and sometimes you start to say to yourself, well, perhaps it's not so bad, perhaps I can do this, or perhaps this may be an answer, and all of a sudden you've got ideas that come to your mind. That's because you've activated fresh brain cells. Extremely, extremely important. So what gives me the right to talk to you today about mindset? Let me tell you a little bit about my history. I spent 25 years in the property and property taxation business, successfully selling that business last year for a life-changing sum. And I'd, over the last few years, begun to lose my passion for that particular business. The risk and reward scenarios had gotten out of kilter, and I decided it wasn't for me any longer. The important thing here is that I no longer felt passionate about something. And if you, in your head and in your heart, you feel quite negative about it, then you're not going to optimally perform, and therefore you will not have the correct mindset. So sometimes it's not even about the money that you earn, it's the realization that your heart lies elsewhere and it's not the passion for you. That's also very important when it comes to mindset. So far we've spoken about activating your brain cells, and you need to take action. Prior to the 25 years when I was in the property and property taxation business, I spent 8 years climbing in and out of a kickboxing, Muay Thai kickboxing ring. The pinnacle of my career for me was winning the British Lightweight Kickboxing Championship in 1983. I had over 30 fights, and some of my fights I done really, really well, and in other of my fights I could have done a hell of a lot better. And as I look back now as an older man, I often wonder what was the difference between when I performed really, really well and the difference between when I didn't perform particularly well. In the fights when I was really good, I'm sure people were saying, God, that guy's over there is good. And then in the other fights when I wasn't so great, I'm sure people said, well, he's not all that he's made out to be. But for me, I kept asking myself, what was the difference? Why was I able to perform so good on one hand? But I want to go back to the walking scenario. When you were going for a walk and you had fresh ideas that came up into your head, and you gave yourself the ability to think clearer. Because that's so important. When we go through a change or something happens to us that comes perhaps as a shock, we need time to take in that emotional experience. It takes time. We need to reflect on what's actually happened before we can move forward. And we also need to recover. We need time to recover physically and mentally from the experience. When I look back at my kickboxing career, there were times we were fighting every 2 or 3 weeks, and you were constantly under that pressure of going for another competition or another fight. In hindsight, I realise now that I didn't allow myself that ability to recover and to recuperate and to reflect on the learning experience and to take it in emotionally what actually happened. Because the reality of it is this: the body and the mind need to emotionally, mentally and physically recover, and that takes time. So if you want to optimally perform during the week and have the correct mindset, you need to do all of these three things. Number one, you need to take physical action. Number two, whatever situation happens, when you want to perform optimally or at your peak, make sure you allow time to recover and to recuperate, because you need that as well. Now, that could be a couple of hours, it may be a couple of days, it may be a couple of weeks, but you should give yourself that time to recuperate. It's so important. And then to take it in emotionally, exactly what's happened. When did you perform good? When could you have been better? And allowing that to reflect and to take that in before you move on to the next scenario. Now, I realise in this life we live in a 24-hour society. Constant phone calls, deadlines, schedules, traffic jams. Sometimes it's very, very difficult. I really do understand. But you need to look at your day and you need to give consideration to the times you want to peak before. And during those times, you should make sure that you're ready. But as soon as you've finished, it is bad practice to go from another instant period by which you need to optimally perform and go, let's say, from one meeting next to another crisis situation. Because sooner or later, you're just going to fatigue. And that's how you becomes very stressful and crisis. You'll end up in a crisis situation because you're not allowing that time. So to recap, to mentally have the correct mindset, you need to activate yourself and be physical. You need to give yourself the time to reflect from the emotional experience and to recover before you move on to the next stage. And once you start to do that, and even if you look at your diary for the next day, for the next week, and you think about when it is that you want to peak perform, then you will perform much better than what you had done before. So my name's John Bullock. I help you to optimally perform even during crisis and stressful situations. I wish you good luck with your mindset. Remember, it's a constant awareness of reflection and recovery and taking action. I look forward to hearing about the action that you're taking now. Please comment with regard to this video and let me know the action that you're now prepared to take as a consequence to listening to this. Thank you. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.